Welcome back to Fixing Furniture. Today my project on the bench is working on this chair that needs a lot of help. First of all, it needs to get re-glued. It's very weak. Secondly, it's got a leather seat here that's seen better days, so I'm going to be replacing the leather on it. We've got some horsehair in here and other organic material that I'll be swapping out and refreshing to make sure we've got good, strong upholstery here that will last for years to come. Now, this chair also has an issue where I see evidence of woodworm infestation. How do you deal with that? How do you treat it? How do you make sure it's not still active? I'm going to walk you through each of those steps as I go through this project. This also needs to be refinished, so I'm sending this over to the refinisher to do the finishing work and bring it back here. Then we'll put the leather on and get it all put back together again. Stick with me, I'll show you how it's done.
As a furniture repair business, we're opening the doors to our workshop to show you the tools and techniques to repair furniture.
The front rail here, you can see this has been broken off.
We give you tips to make your repair projects easier. Let's get into the workshop and start fixing furniture.
This leather seat just lifts out, and I've ordered some brand new leather from a Canadian supplier. It's really nice leather, and I'll be doing this leather replacement once I get this chair off to the refinisher. I can work on the seat frame here and the upholstery. So I'll set that aside. The first thing I did when this chair came into the workshop was I discovered there was a woodworm infestation at some point. I needed to make sure it wasn't active because just like bed bugs, woodworm can spread to multiple pieces of furniture. So I quarantined this in the garage, made sure I didn't see any evidence of woodworm over a period of a couple of weeks. And once I was comfortable with that, I could bring it into my workshop and not have that spread to everything else I've got going on. So it's important to understand this. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about woodworm before I work on this chair, just so you can familiarize yourself with this risk, so that if you do see it, you can contain it before it becomes a big problem for you in your workshop or in your home. These little holes here tell me that there was woodworm at some point and might be active. The way you test for that is just having some cardboard or paper underneath it and watching for evidence of what looks like dust. That tells you that there's still larvae in here that are working away. Now what this is it's called a furniture beetle. The adult beetle will lay eggs on the wood. Those eggs hatch into larvae, and it's the larvae that does this damage. So hopefully in this joint here, you can see it's moving a fair bit. Hopefully they haven't gotten into the joint. They only work on bare wood. They won't do this on finished wood. So it's typical to find this on the underside or on the inside of cabinets where you've got some unfinished wood. If you do have an infestation, there is a chemical that you can purchase. It's a pesticide. So you can put that on here and that will kill anything that's in that. Fortunately, I haven't got it here. Now, I've only seen this on furniture that's come from Europe. This particular piece is from Germany. I've seen it from pieces in France. I haven't seen it in any North American furniture at this point. But this one is showing me it's not active, so I can take this apart. We'll take these blocks off and see what the damage is. But woodworm, if you do see it, make sure it's not active. If it is, treat it. Because this can spread very, very quickly if it's not managed and controlled. I'll label all the parts here, take the chair apart, and we'll see if there's any hidden damage. So I've got all of the corner support blocks out, and the ones on the right aren't too bad, but they will need to be replaced. So I'll be remaking these because we're a little bit fragile. But look at the ones on the left here. If I pick this up, it's as light as a sponge. There's just nothing to it. And look at all that fine dust that's come out. So this was a pretty bad infestation. It's just rendered that wood useless. We look up here, it doesn't look like there's anything into the oak frame, so we should be good in terms of the joinery. These style of joints that come in on a curve typically are susceptible to damage. So I'll take the rest of the chair apart and see if there's anything I need to do before gluing it back together. I've taken all the joints apart and cleaned them up, so we're ready for the glue up. There were a couple of joints that were rock solid and didn't need to come apart. There was one here that was a little bit loose, but it wouldn't come apart. So I've re-amalgamated that hide glue, and that will hold it so that this chair will be rock solid. It's now time to put on the glue and get it back together again. With the chair all clamped up, what I'll do is head across the hallway here to the machine shop, and I'll make these corner blocks so I can get them secured as well. So I'm just putting these sides on here to make sure I've got a good fit. So this block goes here and it's nice and snug. And you can see I put a chamfer on it to match here. And this one, yep, Nice snug fit there too. Okay, so I'm going to countersink holes here, drill them oversized so the screw is pulling that in. And the screws only go into the seat rail here and here. A screw in a corner block like this never goes into a leg. That will just weaken the joint and play with the joinery that's in there. So don't do that. Only into the seat rail. Now when putting in screws, I want to make sure I'm using something that's appropriate for the age of the piece. And that means using slotted screws. I shouldn't be using a Phillips or Robertson in a piece like this. I will use a Robertson to drive the screw in, then I'll back it out. That'll make a channel for this screw and make it easier to put in. The glue on the chair now needs to cure for 24 hours and then it's off to the finisher. In the meantime, I've got the leather seat I can work on.
Do you have a repair project that you need help with? Book a coaching session with Scott and talk to him one-on-one to get advice based on your skill level and tools. Go to fixingfurniture.com to book your coaching session today.
So I'm going to strip the frame here. You can see the frame underneath. It's got webbing. So I need to take the layers off. Easiest way to do this is just to cut it off. So you can see here the first layer underneath the leather is what's called muslin. Oh, I even need to cut it. Okay, so this cotton, underneath that we've got filler. And we're not going to keep this, so I'm just going to gently lift it out and dispose of it. Some people have allergic reactions to animal hair like this, and the organic material breaks down over time. So just need to cut a few of the threads that hold it in place, and it's off. So here we've got some burlap. So I'll just cut that as well. Wow, you can just see how deteriorated this is with age. So that's gone. And then we've got the webbing. So I'll work with my tack lifter here and pull out all the tacks we've got in here on the webbing and on the edge of the leather, and get the frame stripped down to bare wood and make sure it's in good shape. Sometimes a tack lifter isn't heavy duty enough, so I pull out a mini cat's paw. A cat's paw is more robust and has great leverage ability. You can see here the front of it, and on the end there's a fulcrum to pull out the nails. I'll leave a link to this cat's paw in the video description. On the edge of the seat frame you can see all these tacks. This is the top of the seat, and you can see there's a slight bevel on this under edge, and that provides a recess for the tacks so they don't bind. What I need to do is take those out because I'm going to be putting staples in here and I don't want the tacks to interfere with that. I've sanded the edges here so there's nothing sticking out, and I've checked the frame and it's good and solid. There's nothing that's loose here. So what I'm going to do is start by putting the webbing on, and once I've got the webbing on, I'll build up the foam, the padding, and then attach the leather. Just a reminder, when working with a stapler, always wear eye protection, and hearing protection is a good idea too. Next thing I want to do is trace out the foam and cut it out. So I'll turn it right side up just because of that beveled edge to the back here. Trace it out with a marker and then cut it out. And I use a sharp bread knife to cut this out in progressive cuts. Just going around the full curve, cutting it in multiple passes. Now that will be a nice cushion. Now it's really flat here, so I'm going to put some Dacron in the center here, and that'll give it a nice little curve in the middle. So this little piece in the middle is going to give it a rise, and I'll show you from a camera view on the front here what I mean by that. I'll take this away and we'll look at it first like this. So you can see how this is very flat. If I take this off, I put the Dacron in the middle here, put this down, you'll see there's now a bit of a dome happening here. I don't want it too dramatic on this chair, but that little piece of Dacron makes a difference here of how that's going to look. The Dacron and the padding have to be glued in place so they don't move around. So I've got some spray adhesive here. You spray it on, it needs to tack up, and then you can put it together. So I'll set that aside and glue this up. I've coated both sides of this, so I'll get this in the center. Get this laid down. Okay, and we're ready for the next step. Muslin is cotton fabric, and it's going to help me define the shape of the seat. So I'll just get it centered here and then start to attach it. So attach it to the front there. Now what I'm going to do is stretch it, bring it to the back, and then attach it as well. I put in the staples in the lower half of the back here, where I've got that bevel so they won't get in the way when I insert this in the seat. So I'll do the same thing now on the side. Bring some tension around. In the center, put some staples. Now I'll progressively work my way towards the corners, putting the same amount of tension on to get the same shape. Okay, all the muslin's on, and the key to doing this is making sure you get a nice smooth feel all the way around it. I did have to pause a couple times and take some staples out, but that's the nice thing about upholstery. A lot of the time you can undo the work you've just done and try it again. I'll trim this up and then we're ready for the leather. I got this leather from OA Leather Supply in Saskatchewan, and it's just beautiful. So what I'll do is roll this out on some padding, and we'll start putting it on the seat. The leather will be attached here and will be trimmed flush, and I don't want any of this to be visible when that's cut. So what I'll be doing is putting on dust cover. This is part of a finishing process for all upholstery. It should have dust cover underneath it. It prevents any dust from in here coming out onto the floor. So I'll put this on here, wrap it around, and then when I have the leather up here trim flush, it'll be a nice finished edge. Okay, so I'll get this centered here. The only thing that I'm worried about with this leather is how this corner is going to turn out. I have to get it really tight so it fits inside the chair. So I'll get most of this figured out and we'll take a detailed look at those corners. So I'll tack it in at the start here and then we'll get going. There's an example of a staple that's hit another staple, so that one's not going to hold. I'll have to pull that one out and put a new one in. Okay, I've worked my way around to the corner here, and I'm almost at the corner, so I need to make a decision here. If I pull this down here, I get a straight edge here, but I've got some bulk at the corner that may not slip into the seat area for the chair. Now if I pull this back here, I end up with a hump on either side. So I've never done this before. I think I'm going to go this way and see if I can smooth out all this area in here so I can get a relatively flat edge. So this is going to slip into the chair. I figured it out on this corner. So what I've done is I've attached it here at a 45-degree angle. And now what I need to do is work this direction to get all these little wrinkles out. On the other side, I worked from this direction and I ended up with bunching. So I'm going to have to redo that corner, but I'll show you what I mean. Take this, and what I want to do is create a bit of a bubble here. We get it nice and flat in the corner. And then I've got a bubble here. Work that out. Now, I need to create a bit more of a straight edge there. And now, this bubble I can work out and get it flattened. So that's a pretty flat corner there. I'll do the same thing on this side. And now what I need to do is take this extra leather, this buckle that's here, and spread it out over this space here. So put a brand new blade in my knife, and then what I'll do is run the blade along the surface here and trim off the leather. Gotta be careful not to cut the dust cover. I am right there. So let's take a look at the corners. This has got just a little bit of leather that's loose there. Hopefully that's going to tuck into the corner in the recess of the seat. This one's a little bit tighter. So flip it over. There we go. I'm happy with how the leather turned out in the seat, but the true test is going to be how it fits in the chair once I get that back from the finisher. It'll be a few more days yet, but once I get it in, we'll put this chair back together again. The chair is now finished, so we can take it down to the workshop. If you're following along our home improvement woodworking channel, this is our future workshop. You can see more about that there and the other things we've got going on in our Century home. So we'll take a closer look at the chair. Professionally finished, it looks fantastic. I generally outsource my refinishing work because it's not something I enjoy. There are a lot of chemicals involved, and to do a good quality finish on a piece, you need to have a spray booth. You can see here just what a high quality finish looks like. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now for the moment of truth, putting the leather seat in. I know it's going to be a snug fit, so I'm going to start by putting the front edge in first. Let's see if the back edge will work itself down. Yes, I just need to put some screws in here and it's all done. I hope you enjoyed this project and you learned a few things about Woodworm. If you'd like to keep up to date with all the stuff we've got going on in the workshop, go to fixingfurniture.com and you can sign up for our newsletter. I'm going to leave you with another video I'm sure you'll enjoy right here. Thank you for watching Fixing Furniture.